All right, we're here on the Life and Transitions Experts channel. Join me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you, even our podcast. You can check us out there, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcast. But here, this channel, we're committed to and dedicated to helping folks through some of the biggest transitions in life. And really, honestly, how it started for me is that I was looking to probate world and estate world to actually find properties. I'm a real estate investor. I'm a wholesaler. I quite often wholesale a lot of the properties that I find and get under contract. And this was a great opportunity to find folks who need support, need help. If I can solve the problem, and if there's property involved, sometimes I'm able to be a quick cash buyer for them. With that being said, I've learned so much in the estate planning world that I feel like it's almost become like a mission for me to champion and shout and encourage people to think about their their life, their estate, their plan. We talk so much the buzzword generational wealth. Well, a lot of that generational wealth is being eaten up by the state and eaten up by the probate process because folks are either unaware or have decided not to put in place things that they could easily put in place while they're alive to protect that wealth that they've worked so hard to generate. And so I'm on a mission to share as much as I can and learn as much as I can. And as I learn, I share. I am not an attorney. I'm not a financial advisor, but I am sharing my experience and hopefully this will be helpful to you. So um, everyone has an estate plan, whether they know it or not, and you might not like it. Now, if you do have an estate plan that's comprehensive, and we'll talk about what an estate plan actually is in a few moments. Awesome. Then you're way ahead of the game. Congratulations. Make sure you keep updating that bad boy. Make sure that that everything is recorded properly in place, especially if you have a trust. Make sure it's funded and recorded so that it's actually lock the safe instead of just putting the stuff in the safe without locking it. But if you don't think you have an estate plan, you do, and it is based on the laws of the state that you live in or reside in. So what is the purpose of an estate plan? It's essentially gives you the opportunity to make sure that if individuals debt, assets, all that stuff is managed and preserved right after their death based on their wishes. uh, Again, it could be also very important if you while you're living become incapacitated and you need someone to take over making some financial decisions, health decisions. It's really important to have different components of the estate plan put together. Power of attorney, dual power of attorney, health directives, giving people access to your health information through the HIPAA law. You need to make sure that you have folks who you want to have access to your information or health information has it. There's a lot of different things we can talk about, trust, all that stuff. But here we're just talking in general terms about an estate plan, and that's the purpose of it. Now, the difference between an estate plan and a will. Now, it's great if folks have wills. That is a great start, a great place to be. But a will is not enough. In fact, a will has to go through the probate process so that it can be properly executed in a legal way. So, a will allow you to cover what happens to your property and stuff after you pass away. But again, it still has to go through probate. So there are things that you can do that you can have with living will and trust and other legal instruments to allow your family to avoid probate once you pass. But it's very important that we recognize that a will is important, but it's not the only thing it's not going to prevent you from probate. It actually has to go through probate. And so if you do pass away without a will, this is something I use quite often. It's from the private legacy planning. I just like the way they set it up. This shows what happens to your property and things in intestate succession law for North Carolina. It may be different if you're looking at this in a different state, but for North Carolina, this is how property, real assets are handed down uh, if there is not a will and there's no indication of what goes to what. And this is, excuse me, if the state is still solvent. In other words, if the state owes a lot of money and there's property and things that belong to the state that has to be sold to pay off legit claims, then that, of course, property goes away and what's remaining is distributed to the benefactors. All right. So I want to think about a couple of things why it's so important to have an estate plan. Without an estate plan, you are susceptible to a ton of confusion, or you're leaving your family with confusion, or even leaving you may experience confusion if someone your loved one passes away without a proper estate plan. And I've seen tons of bickering and conflict that takes place, but the confusion is also the most challenging things. Like what goes what, where it goes where. Do I need a law degree to be able to actually go through probate? It can be challenging. So, proper estate plan can provide a lot bunch of clarity and peace of mind. Again, conflict, especially with loved ones and family members, it gets pretty heated. I've seen people cut off their nose to spite their face when it comes to maybe a family heirloom that was precious to them, and they're arguing and bickering over it, or just different decisions on what to do with mom's house or what to do with just the different assets that are involved there. If you have an estate plan, it's already laid out, and again, it helps um, reduce, hopefully, the potential conflict that could take place. Also, without an estate plan, things can get pretty costly. Every time you go and file something, and I know Durham County, it's $121 to open probate, and I know $121 is not much, but every time you go in and file inventory, every time you file something, it's uh, it's cost. As well as when you do the inventory, it is a percentage of the overall um, worth of the estate, and we're not talking about net. We're not talking about if you have a $500,000 house, but you owe $499,000, that there's $1,000 will be, some people may assume that only $1,000 will be considered the worth of the estate, and that's what they would charge the percentage of what's owed on that. Nope, they charge the full amount. So it can be very costly. If you have attorneys involved, it can be very costly. If there is administration or even litigation that has to be involved because there's conflict and other things, it can, of course, be costly. So without an estate plan, having a proper estate plan in North Carolina, you could anywhere range from doing it yourself with a couple of documents for about 300, 400, $500, depending on the documents. I don't really necessarily recommend that unless you go with trust and wills, because, well, we'll talk about that later. Or all the way up to about $4,000, $5,000 for a pretty mid-size estate. Now, the larger they are, the more complicated, the more costly it'll be for you to create the estate plan, but also the more important for you to do that because it won't be as costly as if you passed away. Think about Prince, Aretha Franklin, different folks who their properties, their estates are. I think Aretha Franklin's just got settled, and it was. I don't think it caused bickering. I mean, I don't know if it caused bickering, but I know it cost a lot of money. A lot of what she worked for was eaten up by the court system. Um, it's public as well. Without an estate plan, you don't get the privacy. This is all public record, so everyone gets to see what's going to what, who's going where, and how what's owed, everything. So you can avoid that with a proper estate plan. Now, never fear is not challenging as some may seem. I think creating a estate plan is actually empowering. I get to share and dictate and put my legacy out there for my family. It is, I think it's good stewardship of my time, my life, and my family. Um, there are some great resources. I actually partner with Trust and Wills, an awesome site, an awesome service that provides great products for folks who want to do a trust or a will. You can do probate. There's a lot of things that they can support you and help you with. I have a great relationship with them, and if you want a discount, connect with me, and I can share the discount so that you can take advantage and see if it's something that will work for you. Now, if you do need support, you find yourself going through probates, you can also reach out to me. I'm like the hub in the will, helping as much as I can. I usually help with the non-legal uh, stuff that's involved with probate, which is a lot. I also help with clarity as far as the steps that need to take. This is for North Carolina, but I'll support you if you're in a different state. I am connected to a nationwide group of vetted estate professionals, so we can put you in the right space. But I say all that to say, I'm here to support, here to help, and yeah. Oh, I was going to say that by showing clarity of what steps are, if you do decide to go with an attorney, which I can recommend and do recommend, you'll spend less time in there and be more efficient. They'll get to do the job that they want to do and that they signed up to do, because the the administrative lag and things that take place when you're going through probate is not necessarily what an attorney is signed up for or wants to do. So I get to help them in their small business and help you be efficient with your time. All right. So I'm Courtney Rollins. Feel free to reach out. I would love to connect with you. If you have any questions or cop topics that you would like covered, definitely reach out and we'll make sure that we at least address them and get them up there. And other than that, I always end this with saying life in transitions experts light. Let your light shine. Cheers.